Hello reviewees, and welcome back to our video lesson as we continue our journey in learning the intriguing world of fallacies. In our previous lesson, we have tackled about the fallacies in language. Today, we're progressing further as we delve into fallacies in the matter, and we will learn about the different types of appeals that often underlie fallacious reasoning. So let us dive in and discover the fascinating world of fallacies in the matter. Fallacies, in the context of argumentation and reasoning, are errors in logic or flawed patterns of reasoning that can lead to invalid or misleading conclusions. They are mistaken or deceptive tactics used in arguments to make a case appear stronger or more convincing than it truly is. Fallacies often result in invalid or misleading conclusions and are essentially mistaken or deceptive tactics employed in arguments. Their purpose is to bolster the appearance of an argument's strength or persuasiveness beyond what it genuinely possesses. Recognizing and addressing fallacies is essential for maintaining the integrity and quality of discussions, ensuring that conclusions are based on sound and valid reasoning rather than misleading or manipulative technique. Fallacy of accident consists in the confusion of the accidental and the essential elements of a thing. Example: apes and men are similar anatomically, hence, they are said to be substantially the same. The statement explains the fallacy of accident, which occurs when there is a mix-up between the accidental, non-essential attributes of something and its essential characteristics. In the given example, the anatomical similarity between apes and humans is taken as evidence that they are fundamentally the same, even though essential differences exist. This fallacy underscores the importance of distinguishing between core attributes and incidental traits when making arguments, as the latter can be misleading if used to draw conclusions about the essential nature of a subject. Absolute and qualified statement consist in arguing from a statement which is generally true to a specific case which happens to be an exception, or from a statement which is true in a special instance to a general truth. Example: it is good to relieve a person of his suffering, so mercy killing is morally acceptable. The statement describes the fallacy of making either absolute or qualified statements, where arguments move from a general truth to a specific case, or vice versa, which may be an exception. In the provided example, the general truth that it's good to relieve suffering is used to support the specific case of mercy killing, which may not be universally applicable and raises complex ethical issues. This fallacy highlights the need for careful consideration of contexts and exceptions when applying general principles, as not all situations can be treated the same way, even if a broad statement is generally true. Appeal to the person or the look who's talking ignores the issue that attacked the person or character of the one arguing. Example: Miss Lilia is advising you to study so you can graduate, when she herself has not even graduated. The statement refers to the fallacy of appeal to the person or ad hominem, which diverts attention from the argument itself and instead attacks the character or credibility of the person making the argument. In the provided example, the focus is shifted from the validity of Miss Lilia's advice on studying to her own lack of a degree. This tactic ignores the actual issue at hand and attempts to discredit the argument by targeting the person rather than addressing the content of their advice. Ad hominem fallacies are a common but invalid way to undermine an argument and should be avoided in rational discourse. Appeal to people tries to ignore the issue in lieu of an appeal for popular sympathy. Example: you want to grow up and be like Spider-Man, then eat your carrots and drink your milk. The statement describes the appeal to the people fallacy, which involves diverting attention from the issue at hand and making an emotional or sympathetic appeal to popular sentiments. In the example provided, the argument links eating carrots and drinking milk to the desire to be like Spider-Man, attempting to persuade through emotional appeal rather than logical reasoning. This fallacy is a manipulation technique that relies on people's emotional responses rather than addressing the actual merits of the argument, which is an unreliable and deceptive form of persuasion. Appears to force or might uses threat or force to prove a certain point. Example: teacher to student. You don't want to follow my order? Okay, I will just take care of it through your grade. The appeal to force or appeal to might resorts to threats or force in an attempt to establish a point or persuade someone. In the given example, the teacher uses the threat of affecting the student's grade to make them comply with an order. This fallacy substitutes reasoned argument with coercion and intimidation, making it an unjust and ineffective means of persuasion that fails to address the issue at hand. Arguments should be based on logic and reason, rather than threats or force to be considered valid and fair. The appeal to pity appeals to the person's emotions to get his assent to a certain conclusion, evoke pity from the reader in order to accept the conclusion. Example: please your honor, don't put this woman in prison. Who will take care of her 8 children? The appeal to pity fallacy relies on evoking the reader's emotion, particularly pity, to gain agreement with a particular conclusion. In the provided example, the appeal seeks to prevent the woman from going to prison by highlighting her 8 children as a means to garner sympathy. This fallacy bypasses rational arguments and relies on the emotional response of the audience. While emotions have a place in discussions, arguments should ideally be based on logical and relevant points, not just on the emotional appeal of pity. Appeal to ignorance maintains that a statement is false if such cannot be proven or true, such cannot be questioned. Example: God does not exist because science cannot affirm nor deny his existence. The appeal to ignorance fallacy asserts that a statement is false or true based on the absence of evidence or the inability to disprove it. In the given example, the argument claims that God does not exist because science cannot confirm or refute existence. This fallacy relies on the absence of evidence as a basis for making a definitive statement, which is illogical. In reality, the inability to prove or disprove something doesn't inherently make it true or false. It simply means that the assertion lacks empirical evidence. Arguments should be grounded in valid reasoning and evidence, not the absence of it. The appeal to misplaced authority occurs when the appeal is made to a certain figure or person with no authoritative claim on the issue at hand. Example: Nora Honor said, "Physics is very important science that will improve humankind." The appeal to misplaced authority fallacy arises when an argument relies on the endorsement or statement of a figure or person who lacks expertise or authority in the relevant subject. In the provided example, the importance of physics is asserted based on a statement from Nora Honor, who may not have the necessary authority or expertise in the field of science to make such a claim. This fallacy can mislead by representing an opinion as if it is supported by an authoritative source, when in fact that source may not be qualified to speak on the matter. Valid arguments should rely on authoritative sources with relevant expertise and knowledge in the subject at hand. As we conclude this lesson on fallacies in the matter, I hope you've gained valuable insights into the various appeals that can lead to fallacious reasoning. In our next lesson, we will take a fascinating turn and explore abstract reasoning, so stay tuned and keep sharpening those mental faculties.